Welcome to Prime Life. We call it Retirement 2.0. Leave each episode with tips and new ideas to help you navigate retirement in our new age. It's your time. Make it count.
Hi, this is Paul Tyler, and welcome to another episode of Prime Life. And today we're going to be talking about what really makes up, what's on the mind of retirees today, what should be on the mind today, what will be on the mind of retirees in the next 5 years. And we'll talk a little bit more. We've got a great guest for you. Joseph, it's been a week, I think, since we talked. How are you?
I am good. It has been a week. You're lucky it's only been a week.
It's cold. Not too much biking with a lot of rain out there, but it's nice to be in the fall. Laura, good to see you.
Good to see you as well, Paul. It's great to be back. I'm excited about our conversation today.
Yeah, I am too. And Mary, maybe tell us, who do we have on our show, and maybe set up the topic of the day.
You got it. Very excited to introduce Alison Michael. She came from a career in New York fashion. Love that. Love fashion. 10 years ago, she embarked on an adventure which has become 55 Plus Life. She's the publisher and owner of this print and online brand that helps people navigate aging to live their best life. Whether it's lifestyle stories, health and wellness, retirement planning, exploring new places to travel, considering new living options, or trying out a new recipe, 55 Plus Life. Alison, tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey.
Sure. Thanks, Mary. Well, first of all, I just wanted to say thank you to Joseph from Cover Right, and Mary, Paul, and Laura from Nassau Financial Group. Thank you for inviting me on for this opportunity. So thanks again for that. So 55 Plus Life, the journey to get here was an interesting one, but I actually bought this business at age 53. So all of the fashion world involvement that I had in my younger years, probably, I didn't know it at the time, led me to this place, which I'm a big believer that holds true for lots of people and what they do. But I was, born and bred downstate New Jersey, went to school in Manhattan, moved into this city at 23, not knowing anyone or really anything. And I was involved in the Italian textile world. Fast forward, I ended up meeting my now husband, who is from the upstate New York, Albany region. And when I moved up here, I was thinking, all right, what am I going to do? So anyway, long story short, which I'm not great at, I was approached to be part of something that hadn't come to fruition yet. This gentleman had an idea to start and I don't like to use this word, senior, but I guess it is what it is, right? He was starting or wanted to start a senior publication throughout the Capital District, the New York Capital District. And we met, over a cup of coffee, and I love the idea. I'm an entrepreneur at heart, good, better, and different. And this was really exciting to me also, since I was aging too. I mean, we're all aging. There's nothing you can do about that. So I was thinking, all right, where am I going with my life? What am I doing? What's going to drive me and give me purpose? So fast forward again, I joined that gentleman's business, and I did everything really soup to nuts with this magazine. It was originally called something pretty geriatric. It was called Senior Living Choices. Again, I had a vision to evolve to a place where it would be something I would be proud to pick up, look at, what have you. So after doing that from 2013, it was 2019 3 months before COVID hit, I was in the middle of negotiating buying the business. And so I did buy it, which was great, right? Very exciting, big accomplishment, scared to death. But I bought it, and then, our whole world changed. So that was interesting. I learned a lot about myself. And so that's, what got me to where I'm at today. There's a lot in between there. And and just feel free to stop me if I'm talking too much. What I did when I bought the business, so I was the Lone Ranger. I had nobody or just nothing around me, no team, no systems, no procedures. And then COVID hit. So I surrounded myself with a team of amazing people who helped during that time of COVID, when we were all in lockdown and weren't really going anywhere and hibernating for the most part. It gave us a really good opportunity to figure out, who are we? Who do we want to serve? And again, with that vision of, how do I see aging? And not that everyone has to age the way I'm aging, but hopefully in serving up the kinds of content that we serve up, anyone can get something from it. So we rebranded from 55 Plus Living Guide to 55 Plus Life. It's your journey. It's a quarterly, like Mary said, it's a quarterly full color complimentary magazine that you can find throughout the Capital Region. And then we also have a digital brand at 55pluslifemag.com. And we serve up credible content. We have a team, lots of amazing writers. So we serve up reporting credible content. And I don't know if you just heard that, but I should probably mute that. Did you hear a beep? No. Okay. It's just me. Sorry. Just testing. Everybody's still awake. So that's it. I mean, what can I tell you? What can I share?
Oh, we've got a lot of layers here. This is going to be a good conversation. Let's start with where the business is today and connecting with seniors. I think back to, magazines my mother and my grandmother would subscribe to and read to over 2 generations. I had some older. My mother was the youngest daughter. She waited very long to have me. So I mean, I had an interesting cross-generational experience growing up. My grandmother was born in 1897. It was almost the frontier where she grew up. My mother's a small business person, and I think of the magazines that my grandmother read and the material she subscribed to is so different from what my mother did. And I remember I thought she was so old. Alison, she's like 47, 48. Like, what? Near death at that point. I remember, Prevention magazine showing up. Okay, I'm going to take vitamins. I'm going to take extra, do this stuff. I remember Sunset magazine, trips, lifestyle stuff, aspirational materials. Eventually, the ARP magazine started showing up. What was I guess if you think about like your audience, 55 plus, you kind of alluded to it. Like, is there one big demographic? Can you really today in America say, hey, 55 and up, here's what you're interested in? Or are there lots and lots of segments? How do you kind of, what do all these different groups have in common as they're getting to this age today?
Sure. Well, that's a good question. And one of the things that drives myself and my team forward is the constant evolution of exactly what you just said. What is that? Because it changes. It's continuing to change and will change, for future generations. I think what's happened certainly over the past, 10, 15 years, possibly more, but certainly in the last 5 is that, and maybe COVID even helped to traject that forward, is many of us want to figure out ways not just to live longer, but to live better. And what does that mean? Well, it could be anything. It might be spending more time, with your family, starting that second career where maybe you spent the first, 30 years, maybe more, doing something that, back to what you were saying about your grandparents, that those previous generations, I think, and I look at, my mom is 85. My father would have been, I think 91 now. But, they had different careers back then, different jobs. I don't think they sat around thinking about, what's our purpose here? It just wasn't it wasn't part of that world then. But it is with us. And it is with people over 50, now, not just US, but globally. I just read something, and this actually was AARP, which I am a fan of. It says the world is shifting towards an older population, not just here, globally. And, well, they get, go on to talk about how to support it, because we're not keeping up with it in many, many ways. So in terms of, content, again, I can only relate it to the past 3 years when we've tried different things, but we're in a sweet spot now. So the business is doing great. So that's awesome, despite just so much, negativity out there, sadly. But anyway, just try to wake up, be a better person than you were yesterday, and try to make people happy. And there's nothing better than when I hear from, whether it's a reader, a visitor on the site, whomever, somebody reach out to me and say, hey, I love that article on, or, whatever. Just, it's something that made them feel good in that moment. And I think we've now, kind of honed in on the topics that mean the most to people, or not that mean the most to people, that people are interested in learning about. So the health and wellness, we all like to travel. Food is something big for people over 50. It's all about food. Where are we going to dinner? What do we have? What are we going to do? And it's also at the same time presenting people. We did a whole series on inspiring people that are doing something great or did something great that we feel we want to share their story. So
are three of the main goals, and I'm sure there's many, of the publication to educate, empower, and inspire? And if so, has this changed over the last few years?
Again, good question. Yes, I think it is all the above. It's also to educate. So it would be wonderful to just serve up topics that are fluffy and feel good, but at the same time, and those are the ones we all gravitate to, right? But at the same time, we try to interject topics that maybe people don't want to talk about. And we open that up. We're not going to talk about politics because that would be frightening, but we would, we talk about sex after 50. Ooh, it's so scary. These are things that everybody's thinking, but many of us don't talk about it. And so I think it's, the education piece is important. Plus, a lot of us, we're all adult children. Well, not all, but most of us are adult children. We have parents that are aging out, and we are dealing with things like, when my father died 6 years ago, holy cow, what do I do? My brother lived far away. It was me. Here I was, quote unquote, an older mom. I had a child when I was 42. Older mom running a business, had to caregive. It's something that many people in my age group are dealing with or have dealt with. Same thing with Alzheimer's. There's, unfortunate situations there. So there's all that too. And it's important to open up those conversations through, again, good content, to help people feel like they're not alone. Right? Because who wants to feel alone, which is also, the whole isolation piece for older people. Not so much our group, but maybe people that are, were living alone and they were in their 80s and COVID happens and wow, there's no socialization. It's scary.
Alison, you mentioned a few minutes ago about these profiles of inspiring people. You and I met, I don't know, a couple of months ago, and I guess I was inspired by your story, and which is how we got to this point. I would love if you can maybe elaborate, and I know I'm switching topics a little bit from about your business to more about you at this point, but to talk a little bit about some of the lessons you may have learned starting a business, sort of a second part of your career. I consider myself entrepreneurial, but I'm not an entrepreneur, right? I've never done it all myself. So what should people be thinking about, if they're in their 50s or 60s or 70s and thinking about starting a new business? How can you help people?
I think, there's definitely, you have to have, you can't let risk scare you, because there is that fear factor in starting a business. There's no question about it. Although to be fair, I wasn't starting it from ground zero. I was part of it and then took it over and evolved it. But nonetheless, it was scary. I mean, it was cutting the cord. Whoa. I think one of the things I would recommend really high up on the list is find yourself a mentor. And I had an amazing friend and mentor who has his own national publication. So he was able to really hold my hand. I mean, if he was on this call, he'd tell you how scared I was. He's like, you're overthinking it. Just do it. And, all of us, you can let doubt and fear paralyze you. And so eventually, I'd say definitely having a mentor or mentors, and, doing your homework, doing the research, finding out what else is out there, depending on whatever career that might be. I know in my world, I have met numerous people that are being a life coach as a second career. Trying to think what else. I don't know. I'll think of something. But I have another guy. He bought a franchise as a second career, and all these things are very unrelated to where most of these people were initially. But you do start to ask yourselves. It really depends on the individual, Joseph, because what is your vision for your life? What do you want your legacy to be? What does that look like? These are hard questions. I don't even know. I ask myself that all the time. I still, but they're important if you want to live your life with purpose.
So it sounds like like it's less important specific skills or career previous. You're sort of saying, figure out where you want to go and then go after it.
Yes. I mean, you have to have some skill.
Right. You can't become an actuary if you have no skills in math, but yeah, I get it.
Or not, go get that skill. My sister-in-law, who worked in corporate, very high up corporate job, she has retired. Well, she's my age. We went to school together in Manhattan, and she's now going on to be a horticulture therapy. I'm like, what is that? And well, believe it or not, it's a thing and it's growing. And so she is taking courses and getting certified. And I'm like, you go, girl. I mean, that's great. And she's excited. She's more excited about that and helping people through horticulture therapy, disabled people, than she ever was in corporate America. So.
I'll jump in with another question.
Okay.
It sounds like the excitement piece is pretty important, right? To keep you motivated and driven. Should you find something? I mean, when you found this 55 Plus magazine, before it became that. Were you excited by the concept, by the business, or was you just loved the publishing world and you wanted to go into publishing, or you loved the idea of the challenge? Like where does that excitement have to lie to make you kind of succeed and go after what you want?
I think part of it has to be in your DNA, in your bones. You have to be a driver. And it wasn't, I really had no idea what the publishing business was about. I've always loved magazines. I love the tactile piece because they feel, even more so in the world we live in today, where consumers are bombarded with information from every which way. There's something really nice and refreshing about opening up anything, whether it's a book, a magazine, something where there's no other things, peripheral things coming at you. And so that makes it more engaging. But in terms of, what I knew about the publishing world, that didn't drive me when that gentleman had approached me years ago about starting this publication. What drove me was two things. One, I thought, wow, that's a great niche. And at least in our region, we didn't have anything like that out there. So I saw the need for something like that. And then secondly, I do love seeing things grow. I love that. And I love challenges. I'm a big challenge person. So, but I've learned, I've learned so many things, but one of the big things is, one of the downsides of having that kind of entrepreneurial vision is you can be all over the place, and you really have to put blinders on and really, hone in on what's going to drive your business forward. And that's critical. That, and that everything you do is a first, and everything takes you longer than you think.
Yeah.
It's like still living up here. I think it takes, 10 minutes to get anywhere. And I'm always wrong because it takes that long just to get over the bridge to the other side of the Hudson.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, no, I know the area well. So here's actually, you can help us with a problem, and actually it'll be relevant. So, and Mary and Laura, I expect you to jump in. So this is a weird one, Joseph, because this is a question for our former selves, right? Because we've so we've done this podcast. We've recorded, I guess, 6 or 7 episodes in advance. We're going to, release next week, and we'll have a little video clip that intros the video portions of the show. And so Laura and Mary said, we should show some pictures of what retirement looks like, right? So we've gone through B-roll clips and looked at this and said, okay, if we were to show 5 little vignettes of something happening, what is it? I mean, like if you were going to say, here's 5 little, jump into the lives of seniors, what would be the 5 pictures you'd show or images to kind of represent, what you've talked about, life of purpose, which is very different. Technology clearly has changed things. COVID has changed how we looked at the world. What are those 5 visions you'd show people?
Let me think about this one.
So maybe, Mary, talk about what we've bounced around and what we shot down.
So we've bounced around things like exercise, cooking, volunteering, playing pickleball, doing something creative like painting or ceramics or something like that. And certainly travel. I know most people, want to travel and travel. I don't know. What else did we come up with?
Yeah, behavioral finance says that, if you paint a vivid picture of your future self, you're more likely to save money, you're more likely to defer gratification for something. What's that picture of life after 55, now 65, right? Now 70. I don't know, Laura, you've got some interesting ideas on this.
Yeah, I was trying to think of the individuals I know in my life who either have retired or are near retirement or could retire. And I'm trying to think of what will that look like in a few years from now. I think in a lot of ways, in our minds, we look at those around us and say, oh, it's the travel or it's the volunteering. And while that could be true in our future selves, I'm kind of curious, what does the future point one look like? Where are we going to be next? And what does that look like? How is technology going to show up in ways that it hasn't happened before? Like, for example, my father retired. He's since, started working at a startup. So take that at face value. But he moved to Colorado. He was in Connecticut. He said, this has been fun. Taxes are not what I'd like them to be. I'm going to move across the country. Well, I have 2 young children, and now we find ourselves interacting, grandpa's on FaceTime with his 2 grandchildren because we can't do that in person anymore. So what is that future going to look like? And then how are things going to impact the interaction between humans so we can keep these things human and not just via phone?
The metaverse.
I know.
Yeah, Joseph, what's your movie, 15, 20 years from now?
It's going to be machine learning, AI in the metaverse. And I'm going to be a virtual reality pet or something.
Okay. So Alison, we follow you around with a camera. We're doing your reality show. I mean, what's your movie, right? You've started this new business. You've changed careers. You've moved to upstate New York. I mean, well,
yeah, I don't, I feel the movie's always changing, and I mean, I can't speak for other people, but I'm always trying to do the work to figure out what is my end game. It sounds kind of morbid, but not end in the sense of end, but what is, where do I want to go with all this? And the further I get into it, the further I want to go. I mean, an example of that, and I know a lot of people say this, but when I took ownership, I also wanted to figure out a way how I can give back. Well, I recently partnered up with the Arthritis Foundation, which has been great. And we put on this awesome fundraiser recently up here, and it went really, really well. So it's an annual thing. But the point is, it was a way I knew I could take who I know to help raise money to go to something that needs funding. I mean, there's certainly no shortage of those kind of organizations. So I think, that's one part of the quote unquote movie. The other part is my husband and I happen to be married to someone 8 years younger than me, which does present its problem or challenges because, he's a teacher and he will retire at 62 and go on to do something else. We're both type A plus, don't sit still. Like, we got to do something. But I said to him, I always say to him, I said, well, I'm going to be 70 then. So I'm not, I want to move. I want to at least have, it could be a little beach bungalow, something near the ocean, because I love the ocean and the sea. And we even thought about, so one part of my movie might be that. The other part, we want to live in Europe for 1 to 3 months a year out of the year and travel and explore. I happen to be a fan of Europe and just travel in general. But again, meeting new people, it's, if you're in relationships, after the kids are grown, we happen to have a 9th grader, but so we're not in this world yet, but we see it all the time. We go out to dinner and, couples that have been married or people that have been partnered for a long time, and they run out of things to say to one another. They're starved to meet other people, engage. Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I think, I don't know if that's, I don't really have a movie per se, but all those things are in the direction that we see ourselves moving. Maybe it's a lot of people are moving towards college campuses. That's another huge trend. And I think it's great. Kudos to them. where you might have somebody 80. I don't know what the age is, but you might have someone that you would never think would be living on college campus taking classes. Well, that's great. Keeps the mind active. And I think that I'd like to see a more multi-generational peace in our country, where we're just learning to live better together, learning from one another, learning from your grandmother, from your whoever.
Yeah,
that's it.
Oh, yeah. Well, I live next door to SUNY Purchase, and they've got a lot of land there, and they just have built this. They're probably almost complete. I'm gonna guess it's going to open in this spring, but a sprawling senior center, and I can tell they have different types of homes from, they've got the detached residence all the way up to the towers where you probably need more advanced care. And I thought, that's kind of an interesting concept to actually retire on a campus.
I saw an article about that recently, and maybe Alison, that's what you're referring to, but that seniors are living in the dorms, right, and going to class. So that's their retirement. But one idea, which Alison, you touched on, which is there's lots of studies about loneliness, right? It's probably an epidemic, so to speak, in its own right. And if you're living alone or by yourself, you're not as likely to live a long and healthy life. So regardless of what your movie is, interacting with other people, whether that be travel, education, social, volunteering, whatever it is critically important to your mental and physical well-being long-term.
I guess piggybacking on that, have you seen, I saw on the website, you have, your print version, you also have a digital footprint. How have you seen your community grow and kind of shape or reform during the pandemic? Did you see change there where people were coming together more so online and creating conversations around your content?
Yeah, I think not just with what we do, but with everything, people, that was the only kind of engagement you could get was, online. So people were doing, happy hours with their friends, all over technology. And I feel in a lot of ways it exacerbated the areas of greatest need. So one of them, for example, is the whole caregiving piece. And with I forget what the numbers are, but it's something like by 2030, which isn't really that far away, right? That a third of our population is going to be 65 or older. This isn't a New York thing, this is a country thing. We don't have the proper infrastructure to handle people aging should they need more advanced care. So we all hope we're going to live, healthy to our ends, right? We're going to be Jane Fonda or whoever. But you look at those people, Helen Mirren, you're like, oh, wow, look at them. But you don't know. We do the right things and we hope that we're doing enough, but there might come a time in any one of our lives where you might need some assistance with walking or, whatever it is. And that piece is really going to be interesting to see how it changes. And that's why I love what some states are doing. It's not New York. I don't know if it's Connecticut, but there are some states that are doing, it's not a commune, but it's that multi-generational living. So it's different from what Paul said, which those are continuing care kind of campuses where if you chose, you could go into an independent senior apartment. They're really nice. It sounds not that apartment's not nice, but they're nice places with a community room, a pool, all kinds of things. And then if the time came you needed a more advanced care, you could move into a higher level of care within that same quote unquote campus. But there's other things where it is people your age, Laura, with your young children, people my age, my in-laws are in their early to mid 70s. They do, they're very active, and then it could be someone like my mom who's 85. But it is, and then maybe you have gardening where some of those people can get together. So it's different generations coming together to learn from one another. Again, going back to community. And we do a great job at segregating everybody into different groups. And I think that will change because it has to change. Because, you already see a problem, an issue going on now with caregiving. You can't get them. So if you need someone to help, and so what happens is it falls on the adult children, and it will happen to you. It does happen because lo and behold, one of your parents goes before the other, and you're going to be faced with it. So
yeah, interesting. Well, you talk about sort of like bubbles that we live in, with various ages. It's interesting. Certain professions seem to be much more accepting, or I would say value experience. Like the legal profession is interesting. I've seen people practice well into their 70s, in the legal industry. Marketing is kind of a young thing. We talked about, Joseph not going into places where you don't have skills. Everybody can do marketing. That's what I kind of find, Alison, is everybody thinks they can do this. Like fashion, now you can tell me I'm wrong, but I would think of fashion in New York. I mean, you're probably my bias. You tell me right, wrong is like at 25, you're probably like, old at this point. What trajectories did your people you kind of worked up through the fashion industry? Where are they now? What are they doing?
Yeah, you're right. It's the fashion definitely is a very youth obsessed industry, but so is the whole U.S. We're very young, and I see what's happening with that slowly. Is we need big companies. So you take I don't know who they would be. I actually think like companies like LL Bean, Lands' End, they do a good job of that. But you need some of those big companies to be, front runners, pioneers in that, to change that persona. And I agree. So most of the people that I knew from the fashion business, they're all out because my generation was like that. It was, all right, you're a certain age, probably not at what I did because I was on the textile side, but the design side, forget it. I mean, I know a lot of designers, and then they were also struggling with not having the technology skills. I mean, I know, you go back to Halston days, which, he's older than me or was older than me, but those are all sketches. Beautiful designers would sketch. Ralph Lauren, when he started, there was no computer. That's gone. People don't sketch everything. So you lose a certain sense of creativity because you're doing everything on the computer. But it has affected, that industry a lot, on that side of it, on kind of like the very high fashion runway design, but yet you could have a long career, on the corporate side, in marketing. And I do agree. I think marketing in general maybe is something that is considered to be younger. But again, I feel like that's changing. And we're going to bring more and more people of different ages into companies. And in fact, when I meet with ad agencies often, and when I see an ad agency, and they always are, not always, most of the time, very creative on their sites, naturally, because that's what they do. And you see their team. And when you see their team and they have people 60, all ages, not just 25, you're like, all right, this is great because you need all of that. Those are going to give you the best messaging. So,
Paul, I feel like we took a beating here today. Marketing. Anyone can do marketing.
Yeah, well, you have to be old to do insurance, so that's the redeeming full factor here. That's my ace in the hole.
That's
insurance.
a good point. Insurance. Yeah, I was
I'm
going to say.
offended. No. So
And actually, I don't think anyone can do marketing, Joseph. I think marketing is all equals messaging.
mm-hmm.
And I know myself with the messaging that we put out, my team and I, whether, social media, because it's kind of a catch-22. You got to be in it. Sometimes you don't want to be in it, but you got to be in it. And so how are you in it? And how do you do it right? And not only how you do it right, how do you do it right? But how do you present it to the people over 50, which in general are more conservative in terms of what they are going to react to. And we've faced that many times. It's not, younger people with TikTok and Snapchat, and they like bang, 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 bang. They'll, not us. We have to think about it. We're like,
Know your audience. We are
right.
going to be speaking to someone who's built their business, a young guy, marketing to older people who's using TikTok. So,
he has the
awesome.
funniest TikToks with people in senior centers, Alison. You got to see this guy.
it's coming up in a future episode, but we won't ruin the surprise. But
yeah, I don't know. This is great.
That's awesome.
Laura, I mean, where do we take this?
yeah, Alison, your story is very interesting. It's inspiring, but I have to ask the question of why. You've clearly done a lot, and you are going to accomplish much more. I saw on your site, as it's looking through, you wrote an article on there, and a line stuck with me, and it said, "Being 55 means a new freedom." And I think that's a powerful statement for people to interpret, because freedom means a lot of different things to everybody. And looking at, being 55 as a new freedom. But going back to my question of what is your why? Why do you wake up every day and do this kind of work?
Yeah, think about you're talking to all your friends in the fashion industry, a long time ago, right? I bet it's changed.
It has changed. I think my why is to help people feel. It's really to help people live their best life. And it all goes back to that. And sorry if I keep saying that again, but it's true. There's no two lives that are the same. We're all on different paths. Many of us, naturally, yes, you tend to befriend people that are on similar paths, right? Because lots in common, lots to talk about, similar mentalities. But I think, for me, my why is, first and foremost, my partner in life, my husband, who is amazing. And as an educator, and not just, he's a top teacher in the state of New York, which is pretty, he was on the cover of NYSET, which is quite an honor. So he truly has that passion to change children's lives, because he works in it's a district that's not inner city, but it's, of that space. And so first and foremost, he's a huge why for me, because I would hope that we all have somebody in our lives that helps, supports us in being the best that we can be. And to Joseph's point about the social part of it, it is critical, because you have to, if you look at some of the great people, the great leaders in our lives, they had people that believed in them. And you can't do this without that. And it doesn't have to be a partner. It could be a best friend. It could be a relative, whatever. But I think for me, it's just, that's a huge part of my why, waking up every day and being the best I can be for him, my son, our son, and our audience. And just to continue to learn from them. I love learning from them. And I'm always inspired by people that have a good story to share.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, thanks for your time. Mary, anything else we should cover?
I would just say, I have one last question, Alison, for you. Is there anything that has surprised you along the way from your audiences, from people that have reached out to you? You mentioned readers and different. Is there anything that has surprised you pleasantly? I would add that to the surprise.
Okay, so here's one. So I don't know if it's really a surprise. It's kind of, it was the times that it's happened, it's been kind of like, the older part of, because, right, what is being senior, right? At 48, they're sending you your AARP card and you're like, what? How did this happen? And then, but really being senior is 50 and above. Well, that's a huge amount, hopefully for most of us, that's a huge amount of time. And within each decade after 50, that it's also very different. And one of the things that's happened, if ever we make a mistake, and we do, we're human, right? It's usually the older part of the senior that will call us out. A guy called me the other day. He said, we quoted a doctor, someone in the article, and this gentleman had the worst experience with that person. He said, you really should not be putting their name out there. And I just thought that was so fun. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry that you had that experience. And, but that is always interesting to me because it's usually someone that's over 75, shall I say. So that's one thing that it's just a weird kind of like, interesting. That they take the time to actually call someone up about that. And what else has surprised me? Well, I think this wasn't a surprise, but it really goes back to my team. I couldn't do this without them. And I am a true believer in whatever you do in life, you better surround yourself, or you should surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. I'm a big get on the right bus or get on the bus. There was that book I read years ago, and it's so true. We're all in this place, or many of us are in this place where we think we have to do it all and be experts in everything. We're not. I know my strengths and weaknesses, and allow other people to do what they do well, because it's only going to make you more successful in what you do and make them feel good. I try to make the team. That's a huge thing for me. I go above and beyond for people that are working with me.
Well, this is great. Alison, listen, thanks for your time. Joseph, thanks for making this great connection here. We'll put in the show notes links to your magazine website. And where else should people, if people want to get in touch with you, where else should they go?
Sure, they can certainly visit the website, and also social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. And
excellent.
And if the Albany area, they can stop by for dinner.
That's right.
That's right.
All right. Hey, listen, thanks so much. And thanks to all our listeners. Join us again next week for another great episode of Prime Life.
Thanks.